thank you guys again for your support throughout the years, for the workshops and everything that TCEDC has been a part of. TCEDC is only as big or as great as our stakeholders are, so we really appreciate the interest that you guys give for all of the workshops and in anything that TCEDC is a part of. TCEDC, for myself, couldn't happen without our staff, so I'm really glad to have Patty Armstrong, who does communications / anything you need her to do. And then we have Joala Mondragon. Joala Mondragon is my right hand, so I'm not able to do and bring the money that we can bring in to be able to offer these workshops if it weren't for Joella. There's a lot of people in the background as well, that are a part of TCEDC. So again, want to thank everyone for their participation, everyone for what they bring to the table. And thank you for coming to share an evening with us. Grab a Frito pie, let's have an interesting workshop, and Patty will introduce our presenters, and we are thankful to them. They really will bring some light into this, and they come from a very loved person to us, which is Mr. Martinez and the Martinez family. So we thank you greatly, and I'll let Patty introduce them.
Hi everyone. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. If you don't already have one, we have evaluation forms at the front, and I see most of you have it. But just make sure that you fill that out by the time you leave, and you can just leave it at the front there. That helps us with reporting for a grant to make sure that we can get future funds to keep putting on free events for you. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start. So we're going to kind of break this workshop into two parts. The first part will be like digital marketing, e-commerce, direct-to-consumer, and we're going to start off with Marie Bush from Tallgrass Heritage. So she's got a quick presentation for you. I hope you learn lots, and then we'll hear from Martinez Family Ranch, and then we'll do some questions for them. So definitely save your questions for the end of that presentation, and then we'll do that, and then we'll go into the second part, which will be certifications from a Greener World. And then we're lucky enough to have Veronica Serna here, who has been certified through a Greener World. So she'll share her experiences with that and what that's brought to her business. And then we'll do questions for both of them after that second portion. Sound good? And if you have a question, put up your hand during that Q&A time so we can pass around that magical microphone so we can hear you. Okay? Cool. Okay, Marie, you're the star of the show now.
Hello everyone, can you hear me okay? I'm assuming you can.
Yes.
Yes. My name is Marie Bush. I live in Taos, but I am up in Colorado for a wedding today. That's tomorrow. But definitely wanted to drop in and share some of my knowledge. So just by way of brief introduction, I am from a ranch family, so my family is a 5th generation cattle ranch in the Tallgrass Prairie in Oklahoma, and we have 8,000 acres there. And so we have historically always been a commercial ranch, meaning we sell beef by the truckload, anywhere from 100 to 300 head at a time, traditionally. But then about 7 years ago, I had recently finished my MBA, and I decided that, looking at the margins and, trying to work on getting out of the commodity side of things and into more of a direct sales would yield higher margins, of course. So with that, I launched a direct-to-consumer brand of our commercial beef, and that is Tallgrass Heritage. That's my brand. And so what I'm intending to do tonight is I kind of tried to distill down some hard-learned lessons that have come about over this big experiment over the past several years. Because as I know all of you know, it's not as simple as just making your incredible product and they come. So let's move on here. Okay, so to begin with, of course, raising meat and selling meat are two very separate skill sets. So our ranch obviously had it down pat as far as how to raise meat very well, and we were blessed to be on very lush pasture. My dad had been cultivating the genetics of our herd for about 30 years. So we had a lot of advantages, but we were really just starting from scratch when it came to selling direct to consumer. So, let me just move this over so you can see it. Good. So you're gonna have, and I know there's probably people in the room at all different places, so I don't know if there are some starting off like we did on the commercial side, or some who are smaller operations and you just want to get in front of more customers. So I tried to make this a little bit of both. But basically you're gonna have, as you are going to market, you know, you're gonna have a lot of challenges that you have to overcome. So the more people that you're trying to get to, the more you have to have things like proof of why you're better than their grocery store brand. You're gonna have new bottlenecks as you scale your brand. There's gonna be inventory challenges. There's, of course, you know, with beef, we've got a whole animal to move. Every time we slaughter an animal, we have to move the stew meat, the roasts, not just the filet mignons and the ribeyes. Those are very easy to sell. Some of the other products are, of course, a lot more challenging. And then there are specific financial risks as you're growing your market and trying to scale into bigger business, which, of course, you know, will be ads, website, tools, labor. Your delivery costs, your freezer storage is going to change, so there's going to be a lot of adjustments as you go into this space. Our sales channels. So I kind of broke this down into 4 sales channels to talk about tonight. The first one, which is I think where most people are at the moment in the room, would be our local sales. So of course that's going to be your farmers market, your folks that are buying, you know, half an animal, a quarter animal, all of standard things. You guys are used to it. And that's going to be really, really dependent on repeat buyers and also very, very price sensitive. And of course in Taos County or northern New Mexico, your growth is going to be capped very quickly because it's such a small market. The next market I thought about was our tourism market. So we in northern New Mexico, of course, we do have a booming, most years a booming tourism market. So I think it was 2024, I saw a statistic that there was about $2 billion spent in New Mexico on food and beverages for visitors. So I mean, that's really substantial. That's a real marketplace. So that would be, of course, getting into local restaurants, getting into smaller, you know, retail chains like Cid's, or we have several, the Co-op or things like that. And then you're focusing there on hopefully getting visitors to take things home, share as gifts, discover your brand in a restaurant. Keep moving. Regional would be getting into shops and restaurants in Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Colorado, Front Range. So that's going to be, as I said, restaurants, specialty grocers. The bottlenecks you can expect there are going to be, they're going to really, really demand that you have your inventory on point. The ease of ordering and consistency has to be really tight, and then of course you're going to have new issues in terms of delivery and competing on price with other people in the greater region. The fourth channel is of course the biggest one possible. It's online. That's how I started my direct-to-consumer brand, and so e-com will get you in front of more customers than you could possibly ever service. But it can be very expensive. There's a lot of challenges when you're growing. And that's what actually happened to me. Was I had an incredible marketer that I was working with, and my brand grew much faster than I could fulfill. We also had supply chain issues. It was right at the beginning of COVID. So I couldn't get consistent processing. A lot of issues that came by scaling up too quickly online, in the online space. So, I invite you now to think about which market is for you after we just talked about that. So we've got our local farmers markets and smaller scale local footprint. So that's of course going to be perfect when you're at the early stage. You can test your product, you can see what bundles people like, you can talk face to face with your customers, get that real-time feedback. All that's so invaluable. And you're always going to be collecting emails, of course, and just getting the brand out in front of people. That is, of course, if you ever do the farmers market, you know it's very labor and time intensive. You're also limited on your weekly volume that you can move. And you have to be not only at your farm or your ranch, but you also have to have your physical presence there at the market. So getting into small stores and restaurants, the pros are increased brand visibility, and then you're creating credibility and validation. When someone sees your ranch name at Lambert's or whatever on the menu at any of our wonderful restaurants in Taos, that gives your brand a lot of credibility right away. The cons with that are pricing is a big one. They're going to expect wholesale pricing. So when you're, at the local farmers markets and things, you price retail. As you scale, you're going to shift into wholesale, which the margins are not nearly as good. Strict standards on inventory, packaging, and delivery. Once again, you're going to have to really step up your game because if a restaurant puts you on their menu, you've got to be able to deliver very, very consistently. So expanding into ranch pickup and regional delivery, we've got the pros are, again, maintaining that customer direct relationship, so you can go back to retail pricing for, if you do ranch pickup, of course, retail or regional delivery would be more in the wholesale space. And at that point, if you're delivering, you don't need to worry about shipping, packing on dry ice. The cons are, again, it's just you've got to be really on your game. Once you start scaling, people expect really consistent service and delivery. Online stores and subscriptions, again, that's where I started mine. Huge market potential, more predictable sales if you get into things like subscriptions and prepaying. But again, there's very little room for error in the product mix, and your availability has to be very consistent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about marketing. A few points I wanted to bring up. I mean, marketing is 99% of the game here, of course. It's just talking with your potential customers. So as you're developing these relationships, you're always seeking to answer the question, why should I buy from you? As we know, customers have an unlimited amount of choice available to them. They can grocery store chains, local specialty, other ranches and farms. There's so many reasons, and so you need to tell your story of exactly who raised the animal, where it came from, how the land was cared for, the practices used, and your values as a producer, because the customers who are going to come to you, they really, really care about those things, because your product is, of course, going to be a little bit at a higher price point than what they can get in Smith's or Albertsons. Northern New Mexico has a great place-based identity. You can definitely play off of that. Things like family-raised and grass-fed labels, they're not enough for a full brand story these days. You really have to tell, people want to know the details. The customer is getting more informed than ever before, and they've got a lot of questions, and you want to be able to answer them with answers that they like. And yeah, basically good marketing is going to reduce friction after the sale, because you're going to basically, your goal with your marketing is just always keep the conversation going. That's what you really want to do. You're trying to forge an actual relationship with your customer. A few tactics to think of as you are working on growing your brand. So I really advise everyone to work on building their email list. That's how I focused mine. I ran ads, I ran paid ads on Facebook and Instagram, and I had an incentive where if they signed up for my email list, I would give them 20% off their first offer. Basically, you make them a deal they can't refuse because they've never tried you before, they don't know anything about you, and then you get them hooked. So you start building the list, and then you're telling your story through the emails. Again, you're just keeping that connection alive. It's much more important, in my opinion, to focus on your email list and your socials. You don't own any of those social channels. The algorithm is constantly changing, and we don't even know what's reaching people. When people like to open your emails, you can basically press a button off and on when you want to do, when you get new product, when you want to move a bunch of stuff. It is a great way to stay in touch with your customers. So bundles are also a great way to move product that moves slower. So I focused a lot on bundles, especially that helps when you're doing any kind of delivery. You really need minimum purchase requirements. And you're really always trying to move those less desirable cuts. Using seasonal urgency. So instead of doing a bunch of sales and things to move things, you're going to plan this and work on things like summer grilling, back to school meals. Those are great ways to connect with customers where they're at. So you're also going to educate your customers on how to succeed with, so for example, my beef was grass-fed, it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and some of my customers have never actually cooked that before. So a lot of what we did was educating them on the differences for how to use grass-fed, grass-finished beef, what some of the differences might be, and what to expect when they first start working with it, because it is a different product than what they were used to. Another great marketing technique that can get you traction fast is to look for partnerships. And so that is sort of a low-hanging fruit where you can, again, build exposure and trust with your brand. So connecting with different chefs, demoing at various retail places, local lodging, food co-ops, CSA. So if someone already has a great CSA, you could potentially partner with them and offer a meat product to add value to their veggie one. Referral swaps, so hey, I've got this great customer list, can I refer them over to you, and vice versa. And once again, always with the goal of getting emails, orders, and repeat buyers. You don't want to waste a bunch of energy on things that do not lead to these three things. Okay, pricing. Pricing is definitely a huge part of the process as well. And I don't know how many of you are beef producers or smaller animals. So one of my big lessons that I had to learn with beef, you really have to focus on the total revenue per animal. As I said, it's very easy to move some of the cuts. They fly off the shelves. But then you've got 300 pounds remaining of slower moving things. So you have to account for all of that. You're going to separate costs, so you need to know your numbers for every stage of the supply chain. That's going to give you a clearer picture on how to set your pricing. And then of course the different channels that we already talked some about. So if you're delivering to La Montaña down in Albuquerque, you're going to have to factor that in. So a $12 package of whatever that you sell, at a farmer's market, retail, that's just going straight back to you, is not the same as one that is online, that you have to factor in shipping, dry ice, packaging, fulfillment, not the same as if you're delivering there regionally. So making sure that you have a very clear eye about the total cost for all of this full project, the full process. And then again, being careful with discounting. Discounting is fine, but you want to do it in a form where you're using bundles, you're using seasonal offers, very, very occasional clear outs. But the one thing you really don't want to do is teach your customers that if they wait long enough, that you're going to drop the price, even though sometimes that is what happens. Okay, just got a couple more slides here. So cash flow for me has been one of my biggest challenges to learn. And as you're growing, it for sure will be a challenge for everyone. Because when you're on a small scale, everything is fairly predictable. But as you grow your business, you're actually going to have way higher expenses, and usually they're going to be due before you actually get paid for that product. So I really recommend everyone go through a cash flow forecasting analysis as they grow and stay in contact with those numbers. Because, I mean, at one point, I think I had 8 tons of beef in a freezer, and it was all going to sell, but it wasn't sold yet. And that I had all my money locked up in that 8 tons of beef in the freezer. So that was a tough lesson. That was a shock. So sell through speed, you also need to track how long it takes to sell which cuts, so averaging on that, so you kind of know where you're going to be before your next harvest. Yeah, cash strain once again, so you've got to factor in committed animals that are committed, you know, that have already been basically pre-sold, processing slots and timing on that, packaging, freezer space, labor, delivery, all of that needs to be factored in. And then there are ways to reduce risk, so I love doing pre-orders. That's another great reason to have your email list set up, is you can sort of hype it up and get everybody ready and sort of do a countdown for pre-orders, and that definitely helps with the risk. You can take deposits, of course, you guys know this, if you're doing larger scale animal, you know, halves and orders and cow shares, or I think they do it for other animals too. But subscriptions are another way to reduce your risk, so you kind of have an idea of what's going to be coming in every month. And then bundles where you can package in some of those slower moving pieces and make sure that they get sold. Supply chain and shipping 101. So if you do want to move into shipping, there are of course a lot of considerations. For me, I had, as I mentioned, it was COVID. I had major issues with processor availability in my area, and then of course processor quality. And as you're growing your brand, you really have to be working with top tier processors who can cut your meats professionally, where they look nice, merchandisable, package them beautifully just the way you want. Because you're selling high inventory as you're growing, high quality inventory as you're growing your brand. Cold storage is a big factor. What I ended up doing with mine was I bought pallet space at a commercial cold storage. So it was, you know, by the pallet, by the ton. And if you don't happen to have access to a huge walk-in freezer, you definitely need to be considered. I think they have some, actually there where you guys are, but
Correct, we do.
okay, that's what I was thinking. That's a huge advantage. Take advantage of that, and because I didn't have anything like that, and we weren't ready yet to invest in the big one. And so, yeah, I was out there digging through pallets in the freezer, and anyway, duct taping it all together, which is of course what you have to do at sometimes. Fulfillment rhythm. So if you are shipping, then you need to be very disciplined about your order windows. So when does ordering close for the week ahead? Pickup days, if you're doing that, route schedules, batch fulfillment. You will go crazy if you're trying to do a bunch of one-off or two-off orders every day of the week. Plus you're trying to do your ranching, your farming, maybe it's not going to work. So if you have a schedule, you can always tweak it, but you've got to have that intention of maintaining your sanity. Frozen shipping is a huge consideration. It is very expensive. Of course, you have to find ways to pass that on to your customer, but as you have more customers, you know, your margins obviously change. But you've got to be thinking about insulated boxes, coolant, dry ice, transit time, zoning, how far are you going to offer the shipping, and then the customers have to be there when the package arrives. So sometimes I had people be like, they would go ahead and place an order, and then 2 or 3 days later, they're like, oh, we're going on vacation for the next 2 weeks, can you hold it? Anyway, it's a whole ball of wax that you just want to consider, but just making sure that you figure out a way that the way you've got your pricing set up, that absorbs all the shipping costs, of course. All right, last one here. Practical growth roadmap. So, Your first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your local offering is good. You've got a lot of repeat customers, you understand your buyers, why they come back to you, and you really dial in your messaging, your storytelling, your brand connection. So yeah, basically the essence of that is you're going to find your very simple offer, what are the bundles, what are the packages, what's the timing that works best for you, and you're going to repeat that until it kind of gets locked in. The next thing would be building retention and then buying attention. So as I said, that's what I did. So I paid for ads to collect emails, and then I started connecting with them on email. And repeat buyers are our dream customers, so you want to work on retaining people who have bought from you even more than you're working on acquiring new customers. It's much cheaper to retain an existing customer than it is to get a new one. Third step would be testing regional delivery minimally before going all in. Before you buy that box truck, work on getting that outsourced, see what you can do. Don't go all in until you've worked out all the kinks, because there will be, and you can't even expect them before they come up. But you got to figure out what works before you go all in there. The fourth step would be to, making sure, as we already talked about, the channel economics. So getting all of the finances down before you just dump a bunch of money into marketing or into that brand new giant freezer. You want to know what you're really stepping into before you do that. Last step would be don't expand online until your operating system is ready. As I said, I learned that the hard way. I expanded before I was ready to fulfill properly. It was very stressful. I don't recommend it at all. Take it slowly, there's no rush. Just keep moving steadily up, and you will get to the footprint that you want to be at. That is all for me. This is my email address, and I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. I'm always happy to talk shop. I love this topic. But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. That was super informative. Okay, we're gonna switch to Robert and Andrea, and then if you have questions for the group, we will do that. Okay.
I definitely love going after somebody who has all her stuff together.
So we're down one of your slides. Let me just get your presentation up.
But it is nice to be in front of everybody, and I feel like I see some familiar faces, and I feel like we may be on the same boat in a few things. We're definitely a smaller producer here in Taos. Still in that figuring it out phase for a long time. Where do we go? This is just our first one. I'll go ahead and jump right in. So
Yeah.
I am Robert Martinez from Martinez Family Ranch. Here's who we are. So we've been here for, I lose track of how many generations, and there's 3 of them right on the screen there as well. We do produce direct-to-customer sales, and that's something we've been transitioning to over the past 6 or 7 years. Prior to that, it was completely auction sales, is what we would do every fall. We do raise primarily Angus with a little bit of Hereford and Galvey influence growing up my entire life. We were always Hereford, and as the market likes to see Angus, I think we transitioned over to that. Our calves are born in lower ranchitos. We do keep some of those calves for replacement heifers. Some are sold at auction, and as I mentioned, we're transitioning to more of a direct sale and customers of. And then we also do carry over some yearlings. So we primarily sell our spring calves and then carry over a handful of yearlings also to do direct sales later on the following year. Summer grazing takes place here in the mountains of Taos. No hormones, no antibiotics to promote growth or anything like that. And then we primarily, some of the grass that they eat is right behind us in that picture, as well as grass we grow in lower ranchitos. And as we've had to supplement additionally, we source from different locations in southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. And as Marie mentioned, that story is really important when we talk about kind of how you share your story with customers and what they're buying. They're not just buying a package of beef, they're buying everything that goes into that package of beef, which we feel is very valuable, and I feel a lot of people in this room see how Taos holds that value as well. So So it's lightly touched on. Our direct customer sales started about 6 or 7 years ago. I think just like anybody else, we've always had our day-to-day jobs, and ranching is once again been a generational thing for us, a cultural thing for us, but it's always been in the family. Just unfortunately, it's not something that is for us been able to sustain a livelihood, so we have our day-to-day jobs. Shortly after my dad, who's sitting here in the room with us, retired, we started looking more at direct sales and how we could do those types of things, because what we were finding is in most years, normal years, we were making about 30% more on those direct to customer sales than we were at the auction. Also with the auction, I mean, you're at the mercy of the market and what it's looking like week to week, month to month, which is always difficult. So this was helping us to have a little bit of a better margin. For us, we sell beef sold out to hanging weight. Customers place a $500 deposit. It's non-refundable unless there's a processing issue or a cattle issue, and of course we would refund those. But then we found that also helps that if they're paying $500 a few months in advance, that final price for buying a whole side of beef is a little bit easier later on in the fall when we do deliver. Beef is custom cut, customer specifications, and vacuum packed. Vacuum packed has been a big thing where that's really what the customer wants to see, so that's helped us a lot as well. And then our remaining herd of what we have is we basically sell those at auction, which in the past year or two has actually been pretty good. We ran the numbers a year ago, which was interesting. We had an older cow that calved later, and we were just going to send her off to auction. We ran the numbers of what we would do if we turned her into hamburger and sold her, pound by pound, bit by bit, boxes and stuff like that, and it actually didn't end up being much more. So the auction market was actually a better option for that one. So it's interesting sometimes when you come across those things. But this is the main thing I think I'm here to talk about today. I'm definitely not a social media expert, but as I said, over the past few years, really trying to figure out our online presence. Prior to that, we were just selling as Robert Martinez selling cattle. We didn't really have a brand or anything like that, or a landing page. So we came up with Martinez Family Ranch. Marie kind of spoke to that a little bit. If we did want to say, this is who we are, or a family operation. Obviously, I have my dad here, I have my sister online helping me out. And as we try to expand in different aspects or try to figure out how we're evolving as a business, we're hoping that either my wife figures stuff out or our kids want to figure out if they want to tackle online sales, we'll set them up, and if they want to pursue that, then that's the energy they can spend. I know my wife, who did not grow up in this area, she's a city girl, so she's learning her way around. As soon as I told her that she would get a commission on a half of calf that she sold a half in a week. So she cashed her commission and she moved on. So I got to keep prodding her on that. But I think that's one of the advantages we have as a family participating business, is that we try to find it if one of our children want to, like I said, pursue online sales or want to tackle those farmers markets on the weekends. We'll set them up as they can, give them inventory, and let them go. But we do have kind of like a multi-website online approach that we do. We have our website, which we kind of treat as our storefront. That kind of tells our very basic ranch story. It explains how ordering works. It answers a lot of the common customer questions, and then it gives them a direct way to contact us. So I'll go ahead and click on that.
Can I ask a question anytime?
Sure.
How much of your sales comes through our website?
So for our direct sales, last year we sold how many sites?
It all comes through your website?
A large majority of it comes through our website. As Marie mentioned, repeat customers are gold. Luckily, we do have several repeat customers. We are also limited a little bit with processing and actually just logistics of getting that processing done. I live in Rio Rancho, so I'm here a lot of the weekends. So if we're running cattle to go get processed and picking up beef, that's basically my dad doing that, as he's also running day-to-day stuff and managing all that stuff.
So last year we probably sold about 14 sites. And, and again, the processing is limited. You go to Mel's Processing in Colorado, and you basically, every year I have to reserve my spots a year in advance because he's booked. almost a year in advance. And he's not USDA, he's a custom shop, which means the facilities are USDA inspected, but you don't have a USDA inspector there for the slaughter. And so, using that kind of a processing plant, you have to, you really have to pre-sell the animals. So they show up with an owner attached to each side, and then they, and then again, the processor does this. And Mel's is very good. Actually, he was a USDA processor. And he made all the additional paperwork. He dropped USDA because he's booked a year in advance anyway.
Yeah, so that definitely is one of our limitations. I know we've discussed as well, I mean, there are different processors that we can go to. So we've had those discussions that Marie mentioned of, do we invest in more freezer space? Do we invest in any kind of other storage, or how are we going to move stuff if we actually get inventory? So the direct sales, where it's like my dad just said, a customer's name is on that side of beef when it goes to the processor. We drop it off, we pick it up. The day we pick it up from Colorado, we deliver it directly to the customer because we just don't have the storage space to do that. I mean, we've talked about tons of different things. We've reached out to different cooler manufacturers and played around with ideas of, do we power it with solar to kind of help with our costs and those types of things, and grants that will help with all that type of stuff. That has been one of our limitations, but as I mentioned, I don't live here, my sister doesn't live here, so it's a little bit slower than I think some other businesses might move, but it does help us to kind of fully evaluate what we're doing and try to kick the tires on a lot of different things. But luckily, as I also said, it's a generational type thing, so if I don't figure it out, hopefully my son and my daughter figure it out, or my nieces and nephews, so we have time, hopefully. So this is just a brief look at our website. Home takes you to the picture here of us in Taos Canyon. That's how it kind of started, with me pulling out my phone. Every picture you see is probably coming from my phone or my sister's phone. Definitely got a bunch of funny looks from my dad there in the back, wondering what the heck I was doing playing on the phone. If we're on horseback in the mountains and I'm playing on a phone, he probably thought it was ridiculousness, but it gets us these beautiful pictures here. And then there's our family. Once again, Martinez Family Ranch. You should see the family, and that is, we try to keep the website itself very basic, very simple. That's our storefront. That's where you're going to get a lot of the information and questions answered. Once again, it gives a little bit of our story, generations, and how we raise our cattle, what to look for. But our how to order is kind of the main reason we have this. As plenty of you know, customers get very interested, but there's just so many questions. They're probably going on YouTube or probably going online, getting mixed results, mixed answers. So we try to explain how we do things straight through here. Once again, went to my dad as we were building this out, and my sister's our main webmaster for sure. But I was like, Dad, explain to me how to order beef. And as soon as he got into his first or second sentence, I was like, what does hanging weight mean? And he's like, well, you know what hanging weight means. And I was like, I know what hanging weight means. But I need to explain it to somebody who doesn't understand that at all. So we went through that bit by bit, explained everything out, what hanging weight is, what the carcass is, why our beef, like I said, we do spring calves and yearling calves, so that's not going to be as much beef as you get with the larger animal. That helps us with our carrying costs and all of our yearly expenses, but also that does help us when we're selling sides, because you're not buying a 1,500-pound animal, 1,300-pound animal, you're buying an 800-pound animal, and at that point, a side as well. We explained the custom cuts, what they're going to expect when they go into processing. They're going to get ribs and stew meat. Delivery details, what else do we have here? And it kind of explains the deposit. And when somebody's ready to order, they can fill out our request form, and that goes to a very basic form. And luckily, my dad monitors that, I monitor that, my older sister monitors that. So every so often we'll have a text chain or a call like, oh, did you see that customer came in? They had this question. And one thing that we found really with the website that's helped a lot is that we don't get a lot of those. What is the hanging weight? When am I going to get the beef? How do I do this? A lot of those questions, we rarely see those when we get the emails. It's a lot of the other things like, do you guys do quarters? Or do you guys, what are some of the other questions?
Yeah, quarters is a big one because, you know, when you're selling sides of beef, you know, people have to have a significant size freezer. You know, and that limits, you know, the growth, just like in the previous presentation, right? She used to sell sides as well, but you need people to have freezers large enough for that. And so, what some of our customers do is, you'll have two people, friends maybe, or family, and they'll book a side and then they'll split it between them.
Or I think we've even connected people in the past where two people ask for a quarter and we tell them, our processor doesn't really do that. It's hard for us to split that up because who gets the ribeye and who gets the, you know, the flank, or, you know. You can't just cut it, you can't cut it north and south and get equal parts. So we put people together, we would explain to them that they would have to kind of split it up and figure out how they want to portion their half or their half of their side. So we figure that out.
Just one comment. In the beef industry, it is unusual to sell calves, you know, like 7-month calves like we do. And typically, you know, going through the process of you know, sending them to the stockers to get their weights up to like 800-900 pounds, then they typically go in the feedlot and they stay there till they're, now these days, they're taking them to the feedlot all the way to 1,600 pounds. And so, so eating, you know, butchering calves is not usual, but it's traditional and what our family has always done, families in the region. In the fall, you pick one of the best calves, and then you'd slaughter it, and then that would be, you put that in the freezer. And so they're not, so calves aren't finished, but they tend to be tenderly flavorful because they're young, basically. So, but anyways.
So as I mentioned, the website is our storefront. That's where we send people for those direct answers, the direct link to us to reach out. But if you wanted to keep it as simple as possible, the more you click around, the more you're going to get lost, and the more the explanation of how we do things and the answers you're looking for are lost in an overdone website. So we try to keep that as simple as possible.
Can I add one thing to the website?
Sure. I guess.
I just wanted to say that, as we mentioned, we're still, it's a bit of a work in progress. Like Robert said, we wanted it to be very simple to navigate and clean looking, but one of the things I wanted to mention that is still an opportunity for the website is to have a pop-up to capture emails. As Marie mentioned, that is, a very valuable asset as far as information to capture, and so that is something that I do want to add on for this season is a pop-up to capture email addresses. So that's something that you can do as a plug-in on the website.
As I said, figuring out as we go along. I'm usually in the audience and not in the front of the room, so I'm taking these classes just as much as everyone else is trying to learn as much as possible.
Question about your challenges. So we talked about the processing and how the logistics work, and this potentially, you could see that also as a limitation, or potentially if you want to scale, you'd have to figure out more processing. Around inputs, do you have challenges on some of the inputs that go into your business, water, any fertilizers, any processes that you're...
Yeah, definitely. Living in this area, like right now, water is a big challenge for us. We're actually the past few months, we're really struggling to figure out what we're going to do as far as grazing and hay. For the next few months, actually in a typical year, we would be heading up to Taos Canyon to the National Forest to do grazing up there for several months. We're probably June 1st would be the day that we typically would head up there. We're not planning on going up until July 1st if they let us, and that depends on rain and those types of things. So that's a big struggle for us right now. We convinced my dad to buy a whole bunch of hay over the past month, expecting those prices to go up as well, because as we're looking for it, everybody else is going to be looking for it. So that's definitely been a struggle for us. Water, we're very traditional, going back to the generational thing, but we're fully acequias is how we water our fields. We're learning how to be a little bit better as far as on the regenerative side. We used to try to crank out 3 cuts off of our fields as much as possible in the past. As we've been getting away from that, we're doing a little bit more resting, we're sourcing some hay from outside, but this year we'll probably get one cut if any. So we're kind of navigating those as well, and having discussions of, we're pretty happy with our genetics and what our herd looks right now, but they're not going to look very great if they're not eating very well, so we're actually also talking about maybe doing an early season cull to make sure that benefits the herd that we're going to keep and hold on to. So it's a difficult thing for sure. So one part of our online presence is our website. It's again storefront. When you get to the social media side of things, that is our brochure. That's our commercial to people. We're not really selling through there, although we'll put up when we have sites available, if we're offering an early bird special or anything like that. But for the most part, that's just getting people familiar with who we are and what we do and how we do those things. And we've been finding as our customers are ordering sides of beef, like they do want to know that story and they do want to know where their food comes from. So how do I get into and I'm definitely not a social media expert. My sister does. That is part of her professional life, so I rely a lot on her. But as you can see, these are, like I said, this is a brochure, this is our commercial. We try to show people the best of things. Day-to-day life, understanding how we're feeding. When we say grass-fed, grass-finished, I mean, there's a bale of hay, and those are the fields, and those are the mountains that our cattle is eating. My sister may be able to better explain. TCEDC has been amazing with us. Every time we participate in any one of their workshops, they're posting pictures and we're posting pictures and we're tagging each other. So if I don't even know how many followers were, that's how unattached I am, 494. As soon as TCEDC posts something with us that we're involved with, and they share it with theirs, so you get a larger audience that may be interested in your story and what you're doing, and if they're looking for cattle producers. I know recently, I think I even saw a handout there that said where you can look for different things. So the social media really helps us as far as visibility online, but then also building that local community, which we really rely on because we are a very small local producer. 14 sides is just enough to get us in the Taos area. The one side that my wife sold, I drove out to Rio Rancho for her, so she didn't pay me gas out of her commission. But that is something, like I said, we've been looking into the logistics of how do we ship these. Shipping was one thing we did look at, and as Marie mentioned, that's a whole larger operation that you have to be ready to do. But driving things locally, Taos County, as I live where I live, I mean, I'm open to driving a truckload down if we can sell some sides there, and that works also. Andrea, do you want to kind of talk about how social media works in a very overview way of saying things? I know a lot depends on how you're tagging things, and sometimes the songs you choose are something that might trigger more eyes and more visibility to that, so she can probably better explain it than I can.
I was gonna say, I really liked your last post with the Justin Bieber trend.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because the reason I chose that, is because at Coachella, that song was trending, and so what that means is, you have potential to get more eyes on your video, so that's why I chose it. Of course, it was like beautiful scenery, a Taos sunset with my dad feeding cows, and so that was kind of a very, simple, easy post that, that I was able to put up. But for us, the goal is to, for our social media is not necessarily to, have thousands and thousands of followers. We really want to use it to connect with our local community in Taos, so that they can get to know us, to share who we are, what we do, and also to, like I said, to connect with the customer, but also to connect with other organizations, such as TCEDC or any of the other organizations that we work with. And again, like if we post something having to do with them, we tag them, they share it, we get more, eyes in the local community on us. And they say that like someone has to see,
I think it's like somebody has to see something 7 times in order for it to to stick, and I just think that, those repeated exposures are just a way to get the community to know you. And it has helped us to get more customers, even people that, maybe initially followed us because they knew us and maybe they weren't, interested yet in getting beef, and along the road became a customer. It also is a way to a direct line to the customers to get to answer their questions. We really, try to answer any direct messages that we get on Instagram, in a very timely way. If someone has a question, of course, we always can direct them to the website if it's, one of the things about ordering, but if it's, something really specific or they just want to talk to someone on the phone, I usually refer them to my dad because he can explain it, perfectly, or to my brother because he knows more about it than I do. But it's just a direct line to our customers, which I think has been really, really helpful for us. I also think that social media is a tool, but again, it doesn't really replace, especially in a small community like Taos, it doesn't replace that, boots on the ground marketing that is the type of, marketing that my dad does and that my brother does when they are, out in the community. But it is a really powerful tool that can be used for that. And if anyone has any questions, I'm, very happy to answer if I can. Like Marie said, social media is always changing, the algorithms are always changing. So honestly, we just try to do the best we can to, put out content that we feel like will connect with our customer.
Yeah, and like I said, for us, that's our commercial. When somebody becomes aware of us for the first time, or like I said, if TCEDC posts or something for us and they can click over to who we are, you get a snapshot of what we're doing. I'm definitely not the best at it. I've been figuring out a little bit more. Going through this exercise, I realized that I don't actually post in the post section. I put a lot of stories up, so which kind of go away after a little bit. So I gotta be a little bit better at that. But it is funny to hear, you connected with the Justin Bieber song that we put up, and that's not something that you may associate with ranching whatsoever, but that is going to get a little bit more visibility. I think my daughter did one for our branding day, and it was Kanye West, and it just kind of fit with what she posted, but that's a popular thing. I know a funny conversation my sister and I always have is, I've spent a day, send her a bunch of pictures, and she's like, oh, hey, this is what I put together, now what song? And I'll be like, oh, well, Zach Top, I've been listening to him a lot right now, let's do that. Ella Langley was going crazy, let's get that out there, because those guys are our customer base, a little bit more rural, a little bit more country, but we try to make sure and listen to those types of things to add those and help us with a little bit of that visibility.
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to say as well is, one advantage I think that we have is, Taos is so beautiful. So really any pictures, any pictures and videos that you can capture of the day-to-day operations that you want to share, I think always do really well. People, you take for granted, a place like Taos. I live in Dallas right now, and I visit Taos quite a bit, but you just take for granted that not everyone gets to see that every day, and so you never know, who your post might reach, but I think it's just a way to get that behind the scenes view of what it looks like to be, a rancher in Taos. And my brother does a great job of capturing images and photos and videos when they're out, working the ranch, and so that's always helpful just to have that backlog of material to post. And that is another thing is, you can have a folder in your phone of, a backlog of things that you can post. It doesn't always have to be the same day. I know the operation side of it gets busy, so it can always be days or even weeks later.
Yeah, that is actually the easy part. Like I said, every picture on there is from my phone, and I just happen to remember in a moment, let me take a picture real quick, or I'm off to the side doing something. So try to take those to build up, make it easy to find something to post on there as well. That's the thing to remember if you do decide to use social media as your your face to the community. Just be yourself. That's what we try to do. It'd be a lot harder to put up something fake and try to maintain that, so we just try to do whatever's easy for us.
Yeah, and stories are also a really good way to just quickly show day-to-day. Those only last 24 hours, but it's fun to see those pop up and just another way to get visibility, on your account. One thing I did want to mention is, and Marie touched on it a little bit, was doing Facebook ads. You can also do ads through Instagram and boost them according to, geographic area or age or however you want to target that. So that is a tool that is also really valuable. And then also, Taos does have an Instagram that it's a private Instagram. It's not run like by the town of Taos or anything. It's just at Taos. And we did a partnership with them where, they have a much bigger following than we do. And it was a paid thing, and they, boosted our post, and we did a collaborative post where it appeared on our feed and also appeared on their feed. So we did get a lot more, eyes on our post, and we were strategic. We did it before, as we were selling, sides of beef for the season, and that worked out really well for us as well. So that's just another non-traditional way of advertising that you could take advantage of being in Taos.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna jump in with a question. So you guys are giving me so much good stuff, but we're a little bit behind schedule. Okay. So I'm wondering, between the two different operations, so Marie, jump in with your answers as well. One's kind of hyper-local and direct, and Marie's is a little bit broader. What surprised you the most? Or, the gap between what you thought marketing would look like and what it actually turned out to be. Does that make sense? As you approached marketing your product, what did you think was going to happen and what did actually happen?
I can answer. Oh, sorry. Andrea, were you? Oh, okay.
I think as you speak,
I think for me, I was shocked at how well it worked. So I actually started my company there in Taos on the chairlift. I wasn't intending to start selling beef. My dad had brought me out a whole cow when I moved to Taos, and I was kind of on sabbatical. I was skiing a lot, and I just started talking to people on the chairlift. And word of mouth, and it spread. So I ended up, should I take this seriously? I think with the internet, I just was shocked at how quickly you can get in front of people, and how, if you're genuine, like these guys said, you're genuine and you're really sharing your story, how hungry consumers are for that. There are a lot of people that really want that, and they want to connect with you over that. And so if you're marketing in the right way and really strategic about it, you can really connect with a lot of people.
I think for us, the thing that surprised me a little bit was I thought, well, if 10 people reached out on the website, we're selling 9 sides of beef, it couldn't be that hard. But it's a little bit more difficult process to kind of have people wrap their head around all those questions that we tried answering on the website, actually, make them more comfortable with what they're doing. I think that was the hardest part for me, was if you do a little bit of advertising, the sales are going to come easy, and it's actually the opposite of that, which I think is what led us to try to develop more of our social media online, because then you're kind of building that trust and building that perception a lot earlier in the game rather than when someone's looking to just buy. So advertising is year-round, not just when you're trying to sell our sides in the fall, I guess is what I would learn.
Can I make a comment or a quick story? So we sell beef and we raise beef and everything. About 3 years ago, I had 10 cows that I wanted to butcher and sell meat. And I put a Facebook post and see who was interested. I got 200 people that responded to me, and it was a nightmare for 2 weeks responding to the person that was messaging me. I finally told people, just if you want a cow, just come to my place and give me a deposit. But I was shocked that I got so many people that wanted it, and I just couldn't keep up. It was a bit, it was tough. Because we were honest happening.
Yes, and that goes back to what Marie was saying, was before you start advertising, be ready. have your stuff figured out. Okay, one more question for you guys, and then I'll open it up to anybody else. But if you were talking to producers that were going from selling at auction to direct, what's the single most important first step you'd recommend?
I think for us was figuring out how you're going to sell your beef in the first place, right? Like I said, one of our very early conversations I had with my dad was like, we need a name to sell through. And he's like, well, we're not ready for that. And I was like, well, we need a logo and we need a name. He's like, oh, we're only selling like one side a year or two sides a year. And I was like, the earlier we get people familiar with what we're doing and who we are, I mean, we have a very simple logo, which is, by design. We wanted that to be out there, but I was like, we just need a name for what we're doing. We can't just be, oh, if you want to buy sides of beef, you go to talk to Martinez, which works really well now, but it was just establishing that, even though, once again, very small producer, growing little by little every year, figuring it out every year was just, we need a name, we need a logo, we need to, in a non-cheesy way, we needed to build a brand to sell our beef and build that trust in the community that are buying sites year after year. So.
I think my piece of advice would be, get your processor relationship dialed in. That was one of my biggest bottlenecks as I was scaling, was the processing was just all over the place. There were staffing issues at every processor in northeastern Oklahoma. They just couldn't retain people. I mean, I'm sure it's similar there in Taos. But I kind of got to the point where I realized if I was going to continue to scale, then I would need basically a partnership and a processor, because if you're investing and growing your brand and that relationship falls apart or the quality goes down and you've got all your eggs in that basket, there's really nowhere to go from there. And then you can't supply, you lose customers, you really piss people off when you've promised them this incredible product and you can't deliver because you don't have any inventory because your processor is messed up. So it's really worth it, and I know that's a huge challenge in rural areas, and some of it's out of your control, but I think for me that was always my biggest headache.
Yeah, that's definitely something we think a lot about, and we have a lot of trust in Mel where we go to, because like you said, repeat customers are gold for us in a small area like this. Like if we lose a customer from one year to the next, and if they get a bad butchering job, then they'll not order from us again, and word of mouth is golden as well. So if they tell people that the steaks weren't right and the ground beef was too fatty, then we lost our customers at that point, which we can't really afford to do at our scale.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions for Marie or Martinez Family Ranch before we move on? Oh, Mr. Martinez.
You did the Instagram postings. Can you do that?
Can we do it at the end?
Sure.
Let's do it at the end so that we can hear from Callie. Poor Callie is 10 minutes behind.
I never see my dad go on Instagram. Open a single story I sent him.
Well, I was on horseback, and I was oblivious to it until my wife came in the room and says, "Look what the kids put up."
I love it. I watch all of them. They're so good. Yes, well it'll be our outro.
The values of multi-generational organization.
What do those kids do now? Yes, awesome.
And I was just getting dirty looks like, why isn't he paying attention? He's playing on his phone again.
All right, any questions before we move on? And then if you have questions at the end, they'll be here too, so if you think of anything. Okay, Callie. Thank you, Marie. Stick around in case anybody has questions. Oh, we have a question.
Robert,
Yes.
what platform did you use to build your website?
That's an Andrea question.
Andrea, what website or platform did you use?
Ours is WordPress. I would also recommend Squarespace. That one is a little bit more user-friendly. The reason we use WordPress with ours is I had someone else build it for us, and I already knew how to navigate and use WordPress, so that was why I chose that one. But Squarespace, I would recommend, is a lot more user-friendly. It's almost more like a template style. And then I know a lot of people use Wix, that's W-I-X. So Squarespace and Wix, those would be the two that I would recommend if you're doing like a DIY.
Yeah, thank you for
Sign.
using Squarespace, thanks.
Yeah.
If I can chime in, I use Shopify, and I highly recommend it. It depends on if you're going to be selling cow shares or, bulk product, but if you're going to go the retail or bundle route, you're going to have a lot of different products in your shop. And I realized I never shared mine, so I can share that really quickly. So yeah, it's got everything. It's very, very easy on the back end once you learn it. And then it also, it has plugins where you can capture emails better. I don't currently have anything in my shop, but it allows you to, we're basically sold out of everything. But yeah, it's very, very user friendly. You can, yeah. I think it's great if you're going to be doing retail sales.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found too, is being on social media, and as you come across other ranches doing different things in Kansas or Oklahoma, they all have a different style to how they present on social media as well, but some of them have amazing content. I think I even reposted one or two of the stories that one of the butcher was explaining, like grass-fed, what the fat looks like inside there, or what the hanging weight is. They make amazing content. We're always arguing who wants to get in front of camera, and nobody has been pushed to do that yet, so we'll figure out how that works. But the more you see what other people are doing, it kind of gives you ideas of what feels natural or what kind of is a little bit too much.
Absolutely.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Marie, your site looks great, and that's a really important distinction too, is like we're not capturing sales on our site. Our site, functions more as like a landing page information, but yeah, that would be great to capture sales if that's something that that you're looking for. So thank you for showing us that.
Awesome. Okay, Callie. So we have Callie from Greener World, and she's going to talk about different certifications that you can get for your products to help you stand out and to help with the story of what your product is and why it's important.
If I could just say something before Kelly starts.
Okay, just a sec.
Hi, Kelly. I just want to say that what Kelly's going to share with you, most of you are already doing. There's just a few little tweaks that will make certification so easy for you.
Thank you. All right, Callie, take it away.
Awesome. So I'm Callie Castile. I am the marketing services coordinator for A Greener World. We're a nonprofit certifier, and so in my role, once farms and ranches are certified and come into the program, I help deliver our marketing support services. So for all of the farms and ranches that we work with in North America. So we'll be talking a little bit about more of those farmer services later tonight. But I'm super glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I live in Tennessee, so I'm glad to join in from a little bit further away tonight. And really overall, what I wanted to cover tonight and that I hope will be helpful to you is a little bit about just who we are as a certifier, a little bit about just like the labeling landscape and how third-party certifications fit there. And then we'll get into more of the details about the 4 certifications that we offer. You can see those logos here on this slide. And then about the certification process. There's always lots of questions there. And then finally we'll wrap up with some examples of the farmer support, the technical support, and labeling support that we offer. That comes with your certification, so that's free and no extra cost once you're certified. All right, so like I said, we're an independent nonprofit organization, and A greener world's reason for existing is this first point here. So we want to identify and promote agricultural systems that have a positive impact on the environment, society, and animals. And we do that really through two ways, two avenues. And there are these 2 points here. So we have like kind of one arm that does a lot of consumer education about their food purchases and the implications of their food purchases, have like what it means for how that food item was produced on the environment, on society, and animals. And then we also have the certification arm of our work. So we run 4 certification programs that kind of like help bridge the gap between farmers and ranchers and their customers through the certification programs. I've covered this a little bit, so this is one place we can trim, but we work internationally, so I'm on our North American team, but internationally we work with over 6,000 farms that are managing over 3 million acres. And really as a certifier, what we do is we identify, we audit, we go on farm for a physical audit, we issue certification, and then we provide promotion and support once certified for farmers using sustainable farming and ranching practices. So our family, we often refer to it as our family of certifications, are these 4 certifications below. Our animal welfare approved, a certified grass-fed for farmers using a grass-fed feeding protocol, non-GMO certification, and a regenerative certification. And I'll talk more about each of those in just a little bit. So, just to kind of like help us get situated and like where does certifications fit in the world of labeling, because there are millions of food labels out there. Many of them are confusing. I would say most of them are confusing. Many of them can be pretty misleading to consumers, and so we work really hard to share like facts and trustworthy information about transparent food labels. So I just want to give a little bit of like context here to help us set up. It's a good place to start. And I'll move through these pretty quickly so we can talk more about the nitty-gritty of certification. But consumers have a lot of priorities when they're shopping. This is some data from a Purdue University study from last year that just shows that across a wide range of ages, consumers are motivated significantly by taste, affordability, and nutrition. But there is lots of other research out there that sustainability also matters a lot too. Consumers are really looking for transparency, and transparency that they can see on pack. So they want like visible labels that they can look at and know and trust and believe what they mean. So as you can see here, this Nielsen IQ said 64% of shoppers will then switch from their usual food brand to one that provides transparent information beyond just the nutritional facts. So again, they're like wanting more information. And 65% of consumers want the company's sustainability practices to be more visible. And sustainability is a really broad word, but when you're talking about it in regard to like attributes on a product, it definitely includes animal welfare. So I thought this was interesting. There are lots of reasons, people have lots of different reasons why animal welfare is an important consideration for them. But this, and you can read through them here, but this one at the top I think is interesting because according to this study it says 51% of people think animals should live in as natural an environment as possible. So pasture raised, free range. And that's so fascinating to me because fewer than 1% of animals in the US are on like truly pasture and range based systems. So I really see this as like so much unmet demand and also a really big opportunity for consumer education around different food labels. And of course, I feel like we always have to mention greenwashing. I'm sure that many of you have heard this term before, but it's really just the overselling a product's sustainability credentials and making it seem better for the environment, better for people, better for animals, or greener than it really is. And over time, this has really undermined consumers' trust of different labels, and so it can be the case that earning consumers' trust is even harder now because there's so much mistrust overall in the labeling landscape. And so we work really hard, again, to give some important information about food labels. And so generally label claims fall into two very broad categories. The first one is that a label or a claim can be audited, which is third-party certified. So this means that there is a physical audit that happens on the farm, ranch, done by an auditor, and they're audited according to a certain set of standards, and that audit verifies that farm, that ranch is operating according to those standards. And so the audit happens not just once, but on a regular basis. AGW audits on a 15-month cycle, so that over the course of 4 years, we've been able to see your ranch in all different seasons. So some folks audit annually, and we have just a little bit of difference there. So yeah, there's an audited label, and there are unaudited labels. So there's just no verification there at all, there's no audit, and you really have to do a lot of legwork and a lot of research from a consumer standpoint to get to know what those label claims might mean for that particular producer, because there can be a very, very wide range of understanding across different claims. So the most trustworthy claims are those that are verified by a third party, just because you have that added assurance. And for any of you that are interested in food labels, we have one of the resources that we share a good bit with through our consumer education channels is our labeling guide called Food Labels Exposed. And this little graphic that you see here is pulled from this guide, but you can download it for free on our website. We also have hard copies that we can share out, but we're in the process of updating it right now because labels change a lot and they change fast. And there's a whole new realm of regenerative labels and claims right now. So we are in some later stages of revising this. And so if you're interested in getting a new version of it when it comes out, you can let me know or go visit our website and indicate your interest there. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. So here's the question, should you get certified? We work with lots of different types of farms, lots of different size ranches, different species, different locations. There's a huge range of certified producers that we work with. And people are often kind of well, maybe I've considered certification, or some people know right off the bat that they don't, and certification is not for everybody, and we 100% get that. But these are some points that we've found over the years that might be helpful to think through if you are considering a certification. So if you want to differentiate your products in a way that it's really easy and quick for consumers to understand, somebody can look at your beef pack and you can see an animal welfare approved or a grass-fed logo. That does a lot of talking for you if you're not able to talk with the producer face to face. So if you want to differentiate that way, that's usually a good fit. If you source from other producers, or if you sell into, or if you're part of a producer group, and you want some trade stability and consistency for all different producers in your network. Certification can be a great tool for that because all producers are following the same set of standards and are audited to those standards. If you gotta be comfortable keeping some basic records and agreeing to an annual or every 15-month audit, that's just part of the process. We provide some templates and other resources to help with the record keeping, and that's something that we're always working on, but it's just something that you would need to be open to. And then for those selling into a market that requires certification or pays a premium for certification, it could be a good fit for those producers as well. And just like coming out a little bit more like big picture, we're seeing more and more kind of making the business case for certification. This information that you see here on this slide is from SPINS, which is a group that uses UPC codes on products to track different like segments of food and beverage. So, you know, grass-fed products or fair trade certified. It's really super interesting data and you can really get into it. But they have found that food and beverage products that carry sustainability-based label claims and certifications, like they've seen a ton of growth there. So this is from 2025. You can see AGW's non-GMO certification is on here, a lot of growth with regenerative claims, and for under this middle section, under animal, you can see that these are just like general claims, so it would be important, in our opinion, to validate those claims, but animal welfare, grass-fed, free-range, pasture-raised, the market is seeing a lot of growth there. And we're also hearing it from retailers too. Its certification is, like this slide says here, it is a nice to have when you're approaching larger grocery stores, food service, you know, big retail outlets, but more and more it's becoming a requirement. So Whole Foods Market recognizes, within the last year, they've recognized our regenerative program as, we've benchmarked that as a third-party certification that their suppliers can use. And also that's the case for our animal welfare approved program at this point, with hopefully more to come. But we're seeing that across a variety of retailers. It's definitely moving in that direction. All right. So let's chat a little bit about our certification programs. So as a nonprofit, this slide really covers just like the basics of what we do. So at the top, we're a certifier. We have 14 different sets of standards for all different species across different production practices. But the core of it is high welfare livestock management and sustainable farming. We offer farmer support in the form of technical assistance, marketing assistance, and labeling kind of falls under marketing too. But that's something that's available to you from the time that you show interest in certification. If you have questions about how your farm or ranch might, like what you might need to shift a little bit to comply with AGW standards, if anything at all, we can kind of help you understand what some of those places may be. And that support carries you all the way through the time that you're certified. And like I mentioned before, we do a lot of consumer education. We have a popular blog on our website, and we have a magazine that we send out 3 times a year that has a variety of like technical articles and more like consumer-friendly articles. We just had a magazine come out, and there's a big lambing article, and that's kind of, we're now past that for a lot of folks, but we try to hit a really broad topics across agriculture. But another ways that we do some consumer education is through our social media platforms. We have some e-newsletters that go out to our list across North America. But we're trying to inform our consumer network about ATW producers and certified products near them. We are advocates for transparency in food and farming, and then we also offer retailer and supply chain services. So we've done some work for retailers who are interested in getting like a kind of a supply chain validation related to welfare and sustainability. And then we also offer our marketing support services to any retailers you work with too. So say that you raise animal welfare-proof eggs and you sell them at a local grocery store. Well, not only do those marketing support services carry to you directly as a producer, but if the retailer wants to, feature you in their really run a feature on your eggs a certain time of year, or do some in-store signage, or do an end cap to promote your farm. Like, those are things that we can help with for free. Do some help with design work and kind of manage that between you and the retailer in a way that works for everybody. And this is an important piece of our work as a certifier. AGW is accredited by the International Organization for Standardization. So we sort of think of this as like the certifier. So we actually get audited on a regular basis to the ISO's Guide 17065, which is designed to make sure that a certification body, in this case AGW, is operating consistently and reliably in every single aspect of its work. And that really, we're proud of that because it really underscores like the integrity and the transparency in what we do, because that matters a lot. All right, so our Animal Welfare Proof program, if you've ever seen the logo, this is what it looks like. It's our flagship certification. It's been around we have some producers approaching 20 years of certification, so that's really awesome. And this AWA label is the only food label rated highly meaningful by Consumer Reports for outdoor access, animal welfare, and sustainability. And so the idea is that, farms and ranches can apply to be certified, and then once you're certified, you can use this logo on your products to help yourself stand out in whatever markets you're selling in, just as that like differentiator. And it tells people about it's a symbol of your high welfare management practices. So this list right here shows the species that we certify. All of the ones on the left with a little star by them are also eligible for our certified grass-fed by AGW program. And everything you see here, in addition to the animal welfare proof program, is also eligible for our non-GMO certification and our regenerative certification. And for all of our programs, you can kind of think of the AWA certification as the foundation, as like your base, your core, and then the grass-fed or non-GMO or regenerative, those would be like obviously optional, but additional certifications that you could then add to your AWA certification. And that's a really important piece because no matter the certification, regardless of those 4 certifications that you might be interested in, you always have the welfare piece at the core of it. And so you have a grass-fed welfare label or a non-GMO welfare label, and that's something that is a big differentiator between AGW certifications and others out there. All right, so certified grass-fed, here's the logo for that one, but this is for animal welfare approved producers who are also using a grass-fed feeding protocol. So this is that's a 100% grass and forage diet from weaning to slaughter. So this guarantees that diet, and it also guarantees that the animals are raised outdoors on pasture and range for their entire lives, and that, like I just mentioned, that animal welfare approved certification is a part of this as well. Our non-GMO certification is also an optional certification that you can add on if that's, if you're interested in that, if your customers are also interested in that. In regard to livestock production, it's the only food label in North America that helps consumers avoid GMOs while also supporting high welfare animal production. And just like the AWA certification and our grass-fed certification, this non-GMO certification, it is also verified by an audit on a regular basis. And those are renewed, every 12 to 15 months as well. And then regenerative is a very popular term on products right now. It's really like the buzzword of the last few years. And there are more and more certifications out there. Regenerative is a term that means something different really to everybody. There's no one agreed upon definition. Although we kind of have shared ideas of what components might be part of a regenerative management practices. But again, we think it's important to be able to validate the claim and to have standards that back it up. And AGW understands regenerative agriculture to be more than about just soil carbon, but really going much broader to encompass healthier food, more biodiverse ecosystems, cleaner air, cleaner water, better conditions for and better treatment for animals and workers in farming systems. And one way that our regenerative certification is different from all other regenerative certifications is that there is we call it a regenerative plan. That's the core of this certification. We have a set of standards that you can read on our website, along with all of our other species and program standards. But for this particular certification program, there's a set of regenerative standards, and you as the producer also write or have help writing a regenerative plan that is specific to your land, your farm, your ranch, your animals. So it's very place-based because no set of standards especially regenerative standards, is going to apply in the same way to farms in all sorts of geographic regions. So this plan is a way for you to really tailor it specifically to your farm. So a little bit more about that. It might seem a little bit strange at first, but so this is the core part of AGW's regenerative program. We have a regenerative plan template that I would happily share with. It's on our website, and we could also share that with anybody who's interested in seeing it. But you, as the farmer and rancher, likely know your land the best, especially those of you who've been farming and operating for generations at a time. So many producers write their own regenerative plan. You also could work with this, we call it a qualified expert, which really just means somebody who knows what they're doing. So maybe an extension agent or a consultant or someone who knows a lot about a particular topic that you cover a lot in your plan. You would write this, and what you do is you're kind of assessing your ranch, your farm, and you're saying, okay, what are our risks over the next few years, and how do we mitigate those? And the template that's available, it gives you prompts and it walks you through that. So we try to kind of hold your hand along the way and help you kind of fill this plan out. But the plan is part of your certification process. So when we come to audit, we're not only auditing according to the regenerative standards, but we're also auditing you according to the plan that you put forth for yourself for the coming years. So it's really, we like to think about it as a tool that producers can use for measuring and kind of planning change and like implementing those changes over time. So for anybody considering regenerative certification, it's a good fit for anyone seeking validation of their practices. If you are looking for a really structured transition to more sustainable or more regenerative production, it can be a good way to just kind of slowly and very intentionally move through that over the years. If you're wanting to demonstrate progress over a wide range of metrics from air and water to biodiversity to animal welfare, soil health, it encompasses all of that. And it can also be a good fit for land stewards who are formalizing land management strategies. Okay, so the certification process. I'm going to start and kind of walk us through the process for our AWA, grass-fed, and non-GMO certifications, because those are all pretty similar. We always ask you to first read the standards. They're available on our website. We are also happy to mail you a copy if you are the type of person who loves a hard copy. Just all you have to do is ask. And for any livestock-related certification, we also ask you to think through and chat with us about your slaughter plans, because our certifications cover the animal's life birth through slaughter. So that means that we actually send our, our auditors or slaughter team to a plant to make sure that they are, in order to review and recommend them as a plant within the program. So we do that at the request of farmers. We work with plants all over the country, but it's usually a good part of the process to say like, oh, okay, I'm interested in getting my beef cattle certified. I slaughter at this plant. It's very likely the case that we might be already working with them, with another producer in the area. So just a good thing to think through early on in the process. Because if we are not already working with your plant, what we would ask you to do is just say, hey, would you be willing to connect us with your plant so that we can see if they're open for one of our auditors to come on slaughter day to view beef cattle slaughter or pig slaughter or whatever the species is. And if they're not, sometimes they're not, and that's fine. And usually that it's a pretty easy process to just work that into the schedule for during the audit. So after you've done that, we would ask you to submit your application. You can do that online or through the mail. There's a $100 application fee for a single program, and then, if you were to do AWA and then certified grass-fed, I think it's $190. So you can get a little bit of a discount if you add different certifications on at one time. But you would apply. We would then give you a call just to make sure that this is the eligibility check that you see here. We would just have a few questions for you, really just to make sure that you're ready for audit before we send an auditor out, potentially across the country to visit your branch. And then after that, the audit happens. It's a super supportive visit. It's not at all like a pass-fail situation. So if there are any non-compliances that the auditor notes, they tell you, and we set up a timeline to work with you on implementing any of those changes to then bring whatever that non-compliance is into compliance. So they're not going to say, no, you're out of here, or just like that day. Like, we very much work with you over time to bring things into compliance if needed. And then once all of that is wrapped up, the final audit review happens and the approval is issued and you can get your certificate. And once once your certification is active, you have access to all of our marketing support services. Are you ready to use the logo on your product? Things like that. For the regenerative program, the process is a little bit different just because of the regenerative plan. But again, it always starts with the standards. Then you would apply. We would call you again to talk through the regenerative plan, make sure that you understand what kind of what comes with that. And then you would spend some time writing your plan, you would submit it, we would take a look at it and review it, make sure that you're ready to audit. And then the audit would happen, there again would be an audit review. And then once that's all done, you're certified. And so once you're certified, I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of all of the services that you have at your fingertips. We offer technical support, like I mentioned, from the time that you express interest or are starting the certification process for the entire time you're certified. So we have a variety of technical support on our website in the form of, we call them our technical advice fact sheets. That's really like top questions that our auditors have gotten over the years that we've turned into PDFs that you can read, so it's a great place to start. It covers all sorts of topics, all sorts of different, for different species, covers things like farm health plans, transport plans, emergency, kind of emergency plans for different situations. So it's really like a wide range of topics. We also have technical support in the form of people on our teams. So you can call or send an email if you have questions about, really anything. And we can help get answers to those. We can't give kind of, as a certifier, like to remain impartial, we're not able to do like consulting or give like advice, but we can help you understand kind of what's going on your farm and range and how that can apply to AGW standards. So here's some examples. Cost of production, if you're thinking of branching out into other species and need some support there. If you're transitioning from conventional to more pasture-based systems, we can help you out there. But really across the board, we always just encourage folks to come to us and ask. So ask if you're considering certification and you want to know if it's a good fit for you. We want to talk about that with you 100%. If you have ideas and you want to talk through marketing once you're certified, definitely come my way, and we can brainstorm and talk through some ideas and figure out ways that we can support you. We're really always like trying to customize the ways that we can help producers because it's never the same. Every farm and ranch is different, but we do want to like help you get the most of your certification and be able to support you in whatever way that we can. We also offer PR and marketing support, so that's what I get to do every day. Once you're certified, we're always like working kind of in the background for this first point here, to establish and build relationships in order to kind of bring more market opportunities for certified producers. We've had a lot of interest recently from larger retailers and brands who are interested in sourcing high welfare products to feed into their supply chain, so that's something that's always ongoing. But once farms and ranches come into the program, kind of the first thing we do is you and I would work together to draft a short profile about your business that would live on AGW's website. You're also welcome to use some of that content on your website, social media channels, and we would also draft a press release about your certification in order to hopefully get some press. We've had a lot of luck over the years and about getting, like, especially with regional press, when certification announcements come through, or if certified producers have new products or are selling, working with new retailers. Those are all big like events that we can always offer our PR support. But we also try our best to feature news about all of the farms and ranches that we work with in our website, on our social media, in our newsletters, really any like outgoing communications. We really try to feed it, work in a variety of producers into that any way that we can. And then we can also give some advice on how to create a successful online presence if you don't have one, or have one that's new, or have one that's been around for ages. We're always happy to help come up with content or talk through some image suggestions, and we can just kind of give some help there. And then this is a slide that shows a few other examples of marketing support we provide. So on the left here, this is a farm we work with in New Hampshire, and this producer was selling sausages in a new co-op, and the co-op was really interested in getting some great looking signage. So we were able to help with that project, and that's something that we can do again with any retailer that you as a certified producer work with. We offer like pre-branded items, so if you sell at a farmer's market and you want sign it, like, you know, a sign that you can hang at your market booth, or a lot of our cheesemakers like love to have tastings and wear the branded aprons, caps, different things like that. But the idea is that, you know, the more you talk about your certification, the more your customers know what it means, the more they can see the logo, the more that, you know, it's like that, you gotta see something 7 times before it starts to get ingrained. So we want to try to help you really bring in your certification into the way that you tell your story. And then we go to a lot of events, in person and virtually. And so that's something that we do with certified producers, and also we'll go to like farming conferences, do workshops, small events to large events. It's really all across the board, but that's something that we can do too. And then labeling support. I feel a good looking label is important for all producers. These are some labels that we've helped create over the years, and this is a free service that we offer to certified farmers and ranchers. We work with you, and this is also in my realm, but we work with you and your plant, whether you're wanting to if you only want to add the new certification logo to your existing label, you can work with your plant, and then I gather all the documentation and submit it to the USDA if it's a federally approved label, and then if you use a state inspected plant, we can also help with that too. So we can cover everything from design to actually submitting the label for approval, or just providing the logo for if you already have a pre-designed label and you're just needing files to plug in and then get the approval after that. There's a million ways that we can offer labeling support, but that's something that is ongoing, and I do it every single day, and it's one of my favorite parts of my job. So that's a really important service that we offer producers. And yeah, I think we're about here to the end, but like I said, we also have one arm of our organization that does consumer education, but also is there for consumer support. So we get emails and phone calls every day for people looking for, you know, I'm looking for high welfare beef in Oklahoma, or I want to know how these 2 food labels are different, and I'm shopping at Whole Foods in New York. You know, we get all sorts of questions, and we want to try to give accurate information so that people can make the best and most informed decision that they can, because, you know, it costs money to purchase food, and people really want to use that money in a way that matches with their values. So we want to give them good info there. So that's something that we also offer, just, ongoing as well. I think that is really the end of me. So I know Veronica is going to be talking next about her experience, but I'm happy to answer any questions too. And again, just super thankful and grateful to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, that got turned off. All my microphones have died on me. Okay, thank you, Callie. That was a lot of really amazing information and a lot to digest. So I would love to have Veronica come on up and tell us how she put all this into practice for her business.
Yeah. Thank you. Kelly, if you don't mind sticking around to answer any questions that may come up in here.
I'm happy to.
I guess, yeah. So I'm a participant of the program, and I think I've been around a lot longer than Kelly has. I'm a bureaucrat, as I've mentioned to most of you. We're like fifth generation farmers, and generations ago our great-great-grandparents farmed to sustain the family. They had 10, 15 kids, and they did it just as a way of life and to feed their families. And they ran hundreds and hundreds of heads of cattle on hundreds of acres of land, and as they separated their land with all the children, it kept getting less and less. And in order to feed our families, we had to go out and get real jobs. And only those of us that had a passion for farming stuck around, as Robert mentioned. And I admire all of you for being here because it is a passion. It's hard work. It seems like an elegant way of celebrating life, but it's a lot of hard work. It's not just marketing and selling healthy food and all that. You have the cycles to clean. You have branding, you have to, break the ice in the winters, and it's a lot of work. I don't do as much of it as my husband does. We only had 2 sons, they've both gone away to better jobs, so now it's just the 2 of us. However, we've reduced our head of livestock we are down to about 16 now, because we had a fire in the Mora area, and it burned down all our fences. We lost permits to the wilderness, well, not so much us as other people, and and then our secas were devastated with the flooding. It covered them up. It took a lot of work to get those secas running again. So we really didn't have a place for our livestock, for all of our livestock to graze. So we had to reduce our herd until we could get fences fixed and the secas running again. And every time there's a flooding event, chances are it's going to happen again for the next few years. So anyway, I continue to be certified. I'm the one that does the paperwork. My husband does all the hard work. And so back in, it must have been about 2010, I was getting ready to retire, and I had chickens, and I got them certified through AWA. And that's when it was just AWA. I think Greener World came around in about 2014. And then they started getting more certifications at that time. So it was around that time that we certified our livestock. Well, our livestock were animal welfare approved as well. But then we got them certified, grass-fed certified. And so I couldn't tell you how much better we would have done because we didn't start selling our beef until it was certified. But there is a population that loves grass-fed. Grass-fed is very lean meat. It's not marbled like, the way it used to be before when we weren't, we used to fatten them with grains and corn, and that really marbles them, so we don't do that anymore. The other thing we don't do, which they used to do a lot before, I don't know why, is when they vaccinate, and they castrate, they always give them an antibiotic injection. That's not even necessary. I don't know why we inject our animals so much with antibiotics. And I think the thing about not using so many antibiotics is when the human being consumes it, then we don't get all of those antibiotics back into our system. We don't need it. Because when we do need it, and you get a lot of those antibiotics in your cheeses and milks and dairy products and meats when you buy commercial. And then when you get sick and you need the antibiotic, it doesn't work on you anymore because you pumped your body so much with antibiotics without even knowing. So now we don't do that anymore. And it's amazing how many people want the grass-fed beef because of the label, they know it's much healthier for their families, and which is really interesting. I've had customers say that their children behave better consuming grass-fed beef. I don't know if it's the genetically modified products that I don't even know there's science-based study that proves this, but I guess, I don't know, they say when they eat grass-fed beef, they're not as hyper and more attentive, and I'm like, okay, whatever sells my meat, I'll accept it. But it's really interesting to see how people are more conscientious about the food that they're consuming nowadays. The other thing that I've noticed is a lot of people who are, I don't know if it's the vegan or the vegetarians, they like to buy the bone, the packages of bone, because I guess the bone marrow, and they boil that, and then I guess they use the broth from that for their foods, and there's a market for almost everything in your product, So I think having the label it says a lot about your product, and they could go research it, and I get phone calls from all over. I just can't keep up with the demand because our farm is small, and we don't have the big branches that some of you have. But it's really been interesting, and we have learned a lot. And I think what is most important about this program is that it keeps your land and your animals healthier. And as a result of that, it keeps the people that consume it healthier too. So I would encourage people to take advantage of that. I think, like I said earlier, I think what you're already doing is pretty much what is required of the program. It just may take a little bit more documentation for your audits and stuff, but it's not difficult, and it's definitely worth it. And if you look it up, you'll see that there are a lot of farms throughout the world that are certified through a Green World, and they follow their products. And there are quite a few, I think. How many do you have in this area, Kelly?
This is completely off the top of my head. I want to say in New Mexico we have maybe 6 or so. But I'd have to look for the Southwest region overall.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think you get a lot of assistance from the people at the Greener World. As Kelly mentioned, they provide a lot of assistance for your marketing. I made the mistake of running for commissioner back in 2018, and I have 7 more months to go. And I want to get back. I wanted my life back, and I want to get back into farming and doing marketing stuff and all of that. So, especially after this fire, I just kind of lost touch with a lot of these things, but I will get back to it in January, I guess. So, anyhow, I would encourage you all to consider it. Like I said, you're probably already doing it. You know a lot of the stuff. I don't think you realize how much more valuable your product is because of what you've been doing, but if you put the label on it, you can prove to the world that it is what you say it is. So, it doesn't cost that much more to do that, but anyhow, I don't know if you have any other questions, or is there anything else I needed to say?
Yeah, any questions, any thoughts, comments? Yeah, I was just wondering, since the animal welfare is the kind of like the flagship certificate, is that required for any of the subsequent certificates, like the certified regenerative? Do you also have to hold the animal welfare?
I believe that's automatic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I would have to double check the standards, but if it's for livestock, I think there is maybe a 3-year window that you would, if you're getting your regenerative certification, you will have to get the animal welfare approved. You don't necessarily have to start with it at the outset, but there's a window of time where you would have to get both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
As far as the fees, is it like a one-time fee or is it like a per-year fee or?
That's a great question. Veronica, when you mentioned that, I was like, I don't think I said the fees. I think I just said the application fee. So you can think about it as the one-time application fee, and then you pay before each audit. And so it costs $100 for the animal welfare approved certification, and that certification covers up to 3 species. And so you would pay that, every 12 to 15 months on your audit cycle.
And that, I believe, it doesn't matter how big or how small your herd
It
is.
doesn't matter at all.
So-
It doesn't have anything to do with acreage, it just covers up to 3 species, any size farmer range. And I think the grass-fed certification is an additional $100, so that would be $200. And then the non-GMO and the regenerative are different. They are more expensive. Our animal welfare approved is very much subsidized, since we're a nonprofit, we get folks help keep that cost low, and we want it to be that way. The non-GMO, I would be happy to share the fee schedules on our website. I want to say that is about probably $500 each audit cycle, and the regenerative certification is a little bit different because there's a plan review fee and then there's an audit fee as well. And I think total, you get a bit of that's a program where auditor travel is part of the cost, but if you have another AGW certification, then you're not charged for the auditor travel, the piece of that. So we generally give like custom quotes on that, but there is a fee schedule on our website if you want to check that out. Or I'm happy to share it out with anybody too.
So I do want to mention that before we were also certified organic, which is more expensive than AWA was, and New Mexico lost their third-party certifier, and so we lost that unless we would go with some other party from out of state. However, what we found out was that people respected the AWA label just as much, if not more, than just being certified organic. So it didn't make a difference. We didn't worry about organic certification anymore after that. So.
Great, I have a quick question. Kelly, for a small New Mexico producer that's just starting out on the certification journey for the first time, which one tends to have the most immediate impact on sales, and which is the most accessible to achieve?
Yeah, I would say the animal welfare approved is probably the best place to start. It's been around the longest, it tends to have the most consumer recognition right off the bat. And because all of the other certifications are additional, it's a great place to start because it gets you ready to very quickly add a grass-fed certification. So that's, if your customer base is super responsive and interested in grass-fed beef, then you could go and start with AWA and be prepared to then add the grass-fed either immediately or at your next audit. I think those are the best places to start.
Amazing. Okay, last call for questions for any of our presenters today. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you everyone for joining us virtually and in person. And I appreciate your patience, Callie. that was a long one. Yes, I know it's late for you. You're in a different time zone, but
It's gotten dark outside.
yes, it's still light here. Okay, well, you had so much amazing information that I'm definitely going to be emailing you to send us some stuff to have in the office here so we could share with producers on the ground.
I have a question for
Oh,
Kelly.
yes.
Kelly, would it be possible to certify the mobile matanza for slaughtering the livestock?
I'm not sure, Callie, if you're familiar.
Can you say it?
Yes, so Veronica is wondering if AGW would be able to certify what we're calling, there's a mobile slaughter unit, it's called the Mobile Matanza, but we're also, TCEDC is building a freestanding one. And it is coming, I swear. There's a lot of red tape to building these things. But we are working on it, and actually, as you were talking about certifying plants, I wrote a note in my phone to bring to our boss. So I think that's a wonderful idea, and like an added bonus that we
Yeah,
could.
we would be glad, and we don't actually certify a plan, it's really just kind of some language, but
Sure.
we would be happy to review it, and we always review it. We just have to have a producer who uses the plan, who's certified in our program. So we would review it at the request of a farmer.
Sure.
So we would be happy to, we'd love to do that.
Oh, good. Well, when the time comes, we'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, be in touch. We also have guidelines for slaughter guidelines for red meat and slaughter guidelines for poultry on our website. So that might be helpful to start at, to look at as the process goes along for y'all.
Okay, amazing. All right, everyone, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please fill out your evaluation forms. Again, that helps us with reporting and funding for more free workshops. So should only take a few minutes. I tried to make it painless. All right, have a good night. Thank you, everyone.